Robots works for some customers maybe, but there's always a human element involved, and I don't think robots can really replace the human element. So if you want to go full AI, it always sounds great, but but I don't think it replaces the human touch. The emotional connection that you have, and sharing that experience and trying to resolve the issue. So it's understanding really what the customer's problem is and trying and resolving that for them.
Welcome to another episode of Value Seller Talks with Deepak Bajaj, where we dive deep into the conversations with high impact professionals who are creating a real value in the industry and also for the human life. Today, we have joined by a stalwart in the telecom world, Mr. Theo Van Zyl, the head of wireless at Vox Telecom. With over 3 decades of experience and a rich legacy in network design, wireless innovation, and product development, believe me, it is very, very complicated. Theo brings together deep technical know-how and visionary leaderships. So at Vox Telecom, he is driving the future of wireless connectivity through solutions like LTE, satellite, microwave, and many more. And he's based out of South Africa, a beautiful city, Johannesburg. And now it's time to explore his journey, his insights, and the wireless wave shaping the South Africa and beyond. Welcome, Theo, on the Value Seller Talks.
Deepak, thank you very much for this opportunity, and appreciate to share my my experience.
We have watching you, we have following you since many years now, and we have seen that you have done a lot of innovation, especially impacting the life of Africans. And now, whatever has been happening, the digitization and the transformation in Africa happening, it's all because of your efforts, which is contributing to their development. So, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. We try and provide services through South Africa to provide any customer in any area a service. It's sometimes challenging based on the demographics, of South Africa, but we find solutions that can actually help customers in any area in South Africa. So that's our purpose, to let people, communicate and communicate. That's important.
Very, very well. But Mr. Theo, if I go into your achievement, I know the whole session will go into that. But we would like to start with you as a person first. Who is Theo Van Zyl?
Yeah, so Deepak, I started, my career, which is over 30 years in the telecoms industry. And, I worked for one of the incumbent operators in South Africa for many years, and, started as actually a technician out there for a small period of time. Then I moved actually for about 7 years. I was a lecturer actually in data communication services, which, communicated wireless technology and then fixed line technology at that stage. Mobile wasn't on the horizon then. It only came in South Africa 94, 95. So that was just prior to that. So I'm not giving away my age here, but that is, where, where my career started. And came out of a very technical environment as well. So I have a very solid technical understanding of how networks and everything operate. So that's basically my experience there. But to tell a bit more of my passion, so I actually also was a radio amateur. So I've played around with wireless technologies, since I started in the telecommunications space. And one of the achievements was those days before even dial-up existed, was to communicate between computers using wireless technology and sending data packets over that wireless technology and receiving it on the other side. So, I've always been in the play, building antennas, playing with radio solutions and technology in the wireless space. So has always been my passion. That wireless is always a good option for communication in a way. It is there today with the and maybe just to say with the development of fiber, fiber is absolutely, if you got fiber, take fiber, but wireless, in my mind, always complements the fiber solution in so many ways, because fiber can't reach everybody at the end of the day.
True, true. No, I agree. And obviously, you mean all the ways to reach to the last mile and then, give them that experience so that they can communicate and they do their business as well. So monetization
Yeah.
without that last mile doesn't make a sense to anyone.
Yeah, and now with my career in Vox, I focus very much just on wireless technology, and just to broadly, you mentioned some of them. Satellite plays a fundamental role in serving rural communities. Rural wireless microwave solutions play a fundamental role, and then more in the outer skirts and metros, you're talking LTE and 5G technology, and then one must never forget the fact that on the other end of all connectivity, we're all using Wi-Fi at the end of the day, which is a wireless technology. That's why I say wireless complements fiber, because people always forget, all our devices in the home and business are mostly wireless these days. Very seldom you actually use network cables to connect anymore. And Wi-Fi is becoming a whole, art on its own in servicing customers and handling all these different types of connections. So we've actually become professionals in that space as well. And I can tell you a bit more of that as well.
Yes, exactly. But you mentioned, which is new for me as well, that your career was as a lecturer also. Now, from a lecturership, professor coming to the corporate world, how this transition happened?
So in those years, we had the operators had their own colleges. So we had a massive college which we did our own teaching, but I also did a lot of teaching in maths, in science, electronics, those type of subjects as well. So, and because it was in data communications, that is in telecoms, actually, I progressed into moving into the world where we actually started physically doing it, because we became, in that field those days, subject matter experts in the technology field. So you were so close to the technology, you were actually teaching students on the technology, showing them how it works, how to fault find, how to solve problems, how to install, how to maintain. So that was all part of the training. And through that, you actually built experience to actually do that. So that's how I moved into that space, and into the product space. So in the product space, I've been now many years. And I think it's a very interesting space to be in, because that's where you drive the strategy of the company, where you evolve, where innovation takes place. So where do you evolve to what's coming new? How are you going to serve customers? And it always excites me to see new technology coming in, breaking barriers out there, solving problems that customers actually need better solutions for.
Mm. And from a pressure wise, which life is better, the teaching line or the corporate line?
Oh no, the corporate line is a lot better. I think that that's where the rubber hits the road, as they say. So you actually, whatever decisions and implementations you do, you can actually see how that impacts the communities and the customers around you, and that makes a real impact. Where with the teaching life, it's great. I love teaching and coaching people as well, and it's been my passion along, and I think I use it a lot in my career as well. Is helping people to get to the level where they need to get to actually perform in a business environment. But I think that the impact I'm now delivering is much greater than just being in the teaching environment.
And all the great leaders are mentors and the teachers. So that's where the roots are. The more you share, more you also learn, and more you contribute to the society development.
Deepak, you're hitting it on the nail on the head there. I think that, creating an environment for people to actually evolve and grow, and mentor people to actually become, good professionals in the environment. And helping develop them to get to that level that they can actually be performing autonomously on their own. I think, and I always believe in teamwork, and everybody has different skills and abilities, and we always like to share that. And I'm always open to new things to learn. You can never say you're too old to learn. I learn every day, and you should always be open to embrace change. That's one thing. Change is always going to happen. In the industry, a new player comes in, new technology comes in, it disrupts the market. You need to always be, open to change, take the change, adopt that, and find new innovative ways to overcome that. And you can create actually new economies through that. So there's always ways to be open to that. If you just stick to old ways, then you're going to die. You have to be open to new technology, new ways, and change is inevitable.
Very well said. And that's what I always tell to the youngsters, that whatever the knowledge you have, you start opening up, you start talking it, and start enlightening others. Because if you keep everything confined, you will eventually, make this waste of the whole experience which you are getting. So thanks for sharing it up. And I've seen your lot of content also, and as a speaker also. So yeah, thanks for enlightening the youngsters and the professionals. Obviously, everyone has their own style. So thanks for keeping them motivated.
Yeah, thanks. I'm always open to that.
But tell us about the Vox Telecom. What what is the purpose, and what is this company all about?
Yeah, so Vox Telecom has got a long history in South Africa, actually. So as you would know, the market, the incumbents were there, and then the market deregulated, and service providers, telecom service providers, could start getting their own licenses and providing. So Vox was one of the first ones coming back from the 2000s already, where they started getting a license and providing services. It wasn't the Vox brand then. That moved on over time. It became the Vox brand, I think, in 2012. That was established, and it just grew in that space. But Vox has always been in the telecom space, and the name Vox is actually relating to a voice, or Vox, that service. So the name got stuck in many of the communities providing voice services and later connectivity services into South Africa. And it's become one of the leading brands in South Africa today in the consumer market, but also in business and enterprise markets. So yeah, that's Vox. And I think the diversity of services that we provide is quite enormous. So it ranges from any type of fiber service, and all the value-added services around that, with variants of voice services, PBX services, contact centers, and then also into wireless connectivity services in various ways and fashions and forms, certain extent into the mobile, with APN solutions. So it can actually provide a customer an end-to-end basket of services that they need, as a business today, to connect and communicate.
And I'm pretty much sure with the wide variety of services, there will be a lot of challenges also every day you must be facing.
Yeah, challenges are part of the job. So you always sit with a lot of challenges. You have disruptions, you have outages, you have a lot of things that you need to adapt to as these things come your way. But I think through the years with experience and, how can I say, the knowledge that you have, you're actually able to handle all this and manage this. And I also have a great team, with me as well. So the team is quite strong. They've been around for quite some time, some of them of the younger generation, some in the older generation. And I think that makes it very dynamically at the end of the day. So, younger generation people think different than the older generation. It's always good to tap on that knowledge and experience that they have in their field. So I've just to mention, like a young lady that started now out of university in my team, And we actually learn a lot from her because we get the feeling of how young youth think and how they communicate and what they do, and you get a different perspective on how to manage and do things as well. Just to put that a bit into perspective. But yeah, challenges every day. It's part of our life, and it's just why you manage them and what your mitigating factors are to manage that. If it's a high risk or not a high risk, and what you're going to do to serve your customers. So maybe to mention, fiber is in the ground and things do happen. The city council might come and accidentally dig up a fiber and customers will go down, but it's about how you manage the communication with those customers. How do you keep them up to date, and how quickly you can get that problem then resolved and fixed to get them back online again.
Mm. So yeah, so both there are multiple fronts. What I understand, first of all, handling the customer, because today the customer are more demanding. So how to manage their expectation, and this outage is one of the nightmare on any of the system. And the second one is also in handling the internal team and the internal management to make sure that everything is going fine. And obviously we have to prove those things.
I think communication is always key. You need to be transparently communicating internally in the company, but also externally to the customer. The customer needs to be informed what's happening. So you need to keep them up to date in what the progress is, what's happening. And, we've got a lot of processes in place to handle that. Even with new implementations, we project manage every implementation to the customer to ensure that everything runs smooth, the customer is up to date as things happen and progress through the activation process. Just to mention on outages, what we always advise customers are to prevent the unfortunate effect of downtime is that we advise that you need to look at a redundant service. So if you're running a critical business, and a lot of people also work from home, that they cannot afford to be down as well, then you need to look at redundancy as well, because things do unfortunately happen, and it's outside our control. Things do go down, but then at least you got a redundant service that would keep you going. And that's what we advise. It doesn't need to be that expensive, but it can keep you going with your basic business needs or connectivity needs.
Yeah, agree. And when the situation is very dynamic, like anything can happen, by mistake, by accident, so they should have some plan Bs. And and very few operators and the ISPs actually give such type of recommendations to them. So thanks for considering the customer pain and just giving them the right suggestions for so that their business and their life should go smoothly.
Yeah, I think that what differentiates in a way is that that we have engineers that go out to the customer site. So there's a person that actually speaks to you. They can advise you on certain issues that you may obtain, and you can tell the customer how to fix that, or they could fix that for the customer. Like, for instance, if we do a fiber install, we will tell that customer that the fiber router we're putting down is only going to serve a certain portion of your home with Wi-Fi. So if you want Wi-Fi everywhere, you need to put down access points throughout your home to actually get the full experience of your internet. And we can actually do that for them and walk away, and we'll have a happy customer. So I think it's about, the full customer experience, and not that people buy these things online all the time, but we go out the extra mile where we actually can send somebody to your home to go and service you and help you and get things up and going.
Yeah. So it is, the whole team is on the toes because they are actually connected with the customer and then, giving them such type. And every customer has a unique cases, right? So everyone has their personalization and customization, which has to be developed.
Yeah, and I think every customer is different. So it's all about different generations, different ways they want to communicate. And that's why I think, even with in the event of issues or problems customers have, running a proper contact center is very important, because the one customer would like to phone you and talk to somebody. The other customer says, no, I don't have the time. I want to do something on WhatsApp, you can do that, or you can use digital channel. So we open to multiple channels of communications to customers in various ways, which I think addresses, most of the customers' needs in the ways they want to communicate. You can't just have only online. You have to have, agents that can talk to a customer, because some customers want to talk through the issue, and you actually have a better resolution that way. Others know what the issue is, they log it online and they get resolution. So you need to cater for various customers in the market with different preferences for communication. And if you don't do that, I think you're missing a big opportunity in promoting a good customer experience.
Yes, exactly. And I always, remember your wordings that there should be a human touch. It should not be run by the robots only.
No. No, robots works for some customers maybe, but there's always a human element involved, and I don't think robots can really replace the human element. So, if you want to go full AI, it always sounds great, but but I don't think it replaces the human touch, the emotional connection that you have, and sharing that experience and trying to resolve the issue. So it's understanding really what the customer's problem is and trying and resolving that for them.
It's a very important message because in the technology you cannot rely on all the just coding. There should be a human, there should be a personal experience creates a long lasting relationship with the customers, and that is what is required for the business.
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
What are the big roles which you have envisioned for Vox?
Um, the big roles. I missed your. Sorry.
The big goals which you have set
Big
for.
goals. Okay. Yeah. So I think goals in that perspective, Deepak, is that one of the big goals is always growth. So, growth is important to every organization for sustainability and to do that. So you don't want to always become stagnant. So we're always looking, so big picture is growth goals. So what we can do to grow a company as well and to create sustainability for a company. And I think that's what we focus on a lot. And then I think secondly is, that a growth in fiber, is important to us, and the services that we provide always around that. But like mentioned, is also bundling services to customers as a goal, that we provide the whole spectrum of services from voice, connectivity, communication, all those services in a bundle, but also providing, like we discussed, redundant services to the customer. So it's really the goal is growth and customer satisfaction, so very important for us that we have satisfied customers, but also growing our business for sustainability at the end of the day. And then, I think on some of the big picture goals, that we focused on very recently is to move into new technologies. So, that actually can serve customers more effectively. And one of those is, we've always had geostationary satellites available in South Africa. We serve many customers, but enterprise LEO services, that's the low orbit satellite services, have actually now become available. And now we can service, large business or enterprise customers on those. And that would give them a very fiber-like experience anywhere in the country. So you can be, 500 kilometers from the nearest metro in a rural area, and we can provide you with the experience that you would have nearly like in a metro area. It's still expensive technologies, but technology, we believe, will, as it matures and as growth comes in, prices do come down. So, but it's about, providing connectivity. One of the goals, providing connectivity, affordable and effectively to anybody in South Africa is what our goal is to enable communities anywhere to be able to communicate and connect.
It's a very complicated task which you are talking about, because reaching to the unconnected area required a lot of innovation, and obviously it should fit into the pockets of the users so that they can also adopt it. So how you are
And that
balancing these two things?
it's a big challenge, and I think it's one of the hurdles is how do you take cost-effective solutions to the communities that cannot always afford this, So, and that I think has been one of our challenges always. And being in South Africa, I think one of the hurdles are that we have is basically that when we use technologies like satellite technology and that
Mm,
we actually pay in foreign currency for those services, which is very expensive. And if you
mm,
translate that back into South African currency, then the price tag may seem a bit high, but it is what it is. But we try our best to make it as affordable or create innovative packages that we can actually serve those customers.
Yeah, it is. It's a different engineering altogether. Making it fit and making it adopt, making it to reach to the right people. I'm pretty much sure your whole team is dedicatedly working on it, and we are going to get very good news in the coming time.
I'm very sure of that, Deepak. I believe there's a lot of things happening in South Africa on the forefront of a lot of technology changes that we believe, would drive mass adoption in a lot of areas. So we're quite excited where things are going. I mean, if you look at South Africa, there's some areas that you would find that hasn't even got proper mobile coverage yet. So,
Mm,
and it's nothing wrong with the operators. It's just that in those areas, your population density is so small that it's not economically viable to put down any terrestrial service to serve communities. So the only way you can serve those communities is using, like satellite type of communication out there. That's the only, or maybe wireless connectivity in those rural areas that can reach far distances.
Yeah, and we are seeing a lot of traction going in the rural, and definitely there will be a lot of use cases, especially for the unconnected and the areas which are very far away from the main cities.
And I think the government also plays a fundamental role,
Mm,
in creating the environment for those communities to connect through different programs and partnerships. So there's a
mm.
lot happening in South Africa in that aspect as well. So quite excited to see where all this transpires to and where this goes to.
I like to know from your perspective, like in the South Africa, as you rightly mentioned, it's a very competitive market. There are so many players are there. So what are the value adds, or what is the USP of Vox wireless, which keeps them, which makes them as a preferred choice of the customer to opt your services or remain connected with you?
I think you're absolutely right. There are many players in the South African industry, and each of us has got a share of the pie of connectivity.
Yeah.
And that makes South Africa quite unique. There's nobody that I think majorly dominates the market in any way, in a lot of space, especially on an ISP level or a connectivity level. Some are got higher numbers than others, but I think it's the unique value proposition to the customer that appeals to that specific customer market segment and addressing that specific segment needs. So I think what puts us apart is that not all providers focus on like satellite services. Not all providers focus on wireless services out there. And I think that brings the dynamic change in our side is that we actually embrace all technologies to our disposal to reach customers. Some just focus on metro areas where there's just fiber, but we have focused on all communities across all provinces to provide connectivity. And I think that makes us unique in that space. So if you are a business and you want connectivity, we can help you basically anywhere in the country. If you just business in a metro, maybe you have more options, than that. So I think it depends on the customer and what appeals to the customer at the end of the day. I know price is always key as well. And I must say, Vox's pricing has always been very competitive in the market as well, so we're very sensitive to the market and the market prices out there as well.
And after the pandemic, right, there's a immediately requirement of the transformation. So how Vox has able to evolve its offerings to reach to that over demanding approach from the customers?
Yeah, so in the pandemic, as everything shifted. We had a massive growth for people wanting to work from home. Adoption of connectivity grew substantially in the wireless space, LTE, space on fiber and on wires grew. And then after, the pandemic, people had to go back to work. So they were evaluating their options and looking at alternatives. But now the growth is starting again in the business. So that period in the pandemic, businesses at the business premise growth wasn't there. It was all at home, people working from home. Now people move back to work again. And now businesses are growing in different ways. I think hybrid working is one of the big things in South Africa that we see, where people do part-time work at home, part-time work at the office, and it's still very much in big organizations in South Africa follow that. So even the roads are a bit quieter than what it was before the pandemic, because that's the advantage we get. But we see more and more people are going back to the office. And then out of the pandemic, we actually saw a huge adoption in cloud services, because now people had to start sharing documents. They use cloud applications. The collaboration environment started changing. The communication environment started changing. So cloud adoption was key. And now that everybody's back at work, companies are embracing cloud a lot more in their business, meaning that basically they need much more reliable connectivity at the offices, and more connectivity at the offices to do that. So I think that's the sort of the change we're seeing happening, and the demand for that connectivity. So business connectivity is definitely growing, and capacity, needs are growing in that space as well. That's all because I think of after the pandemic, and the change and the shift in how technology was used now is quite a lot different. Where businesses had on-site servers and stuff, people as that's all in the cloud now, because it doesn't make sense to have it on site anymore. But now you need good connectivity to reach those servers.
Yeah, and it's an interesting time, because as the data demand is getting increased and people are getting more and more adoption of especially the data hungry applications, the life has changed.
It has changed quite substantially. And now today, if you're on your mobile phone or on your laptop or on your tablet, you can access basically all applications, all content. Do your work very much anywhere. So it's really become an on-the-go type of way that businesses start communicating. And I think with the flavor of VoIP, voice over IP, it gives you the ability that you can be on a contact center application on your cell phone, and people might think you're at the office, but you're not. You might be traveling in the car, or you might be on a site visiting a customer, and you would be taking calls there, but they're calling you and contacting you as if you are in your office. And I think that whole convenience factor has now changed quite substantially, where that adoption has grown quite significantly as well, where people were just at work. So, you have to be at work and you'll be contacted there, but not anymore. People are contacted anywhere. In fact, with this whole change, a lot of employees have also moved to other countries as well. So, it doesn't matter if you sitting in Europe and you're working, it's actually now become irrelevant. If you're a data programmer, doesn't matter where you are. You can still work, you can still do your job, you can have your meetings. The whole collaboration still takes place, but you need the bandwidth, the capacity to actually do that.
And like this brings up opportunity as well as challenges. So when the person moving from one place to another, it talks about a lot of security and how Vox is making sure that the whole communication is getting secured and the data is protected.
So there's various aspects of security and different levels of security, but I mean, what we do advise customers is to ensure that their networks are secure. So we can provide firewall solutions, on if you're using Wi-Fi, it's about securing your Wi-Fi network. When you're running a business and you also have customers coming into your business, sharing your Wi-Fi, you don't want your customers that's walking into your offices using your Wi-Fi to be on the same Wi-Fi segment as you, where your critical business applications and staff are. So you need to create that virtualization and that segmentation and that security aspects around it. So security has absolutely become key, but there's many levels of security that you actually advise customers to actually do this, from firewalls. If you look at after the pandemic, the phishing attacks that we've been getting all over the world, people trying to, there's a lot of ways to mitigate and manage that and to ensure that customers aren't prone to that. I think also education and communication about security to be more transparent to customers, and customers, business customers, to their employees, to ensure that they don't take unnecessary risks at the end of the day by exposing stuff. Data leakage also a big issue. So it's about managing that you're not able to download the whole company database and from a company and extract it and give it to somebody else. And there's a lot of legislation happening in South Africa managing that as well. So yeah, security is high up on the priority list when it comes to networks, connectivity, and communications.
Yeah. Opportunities bring challenges, and challenges bring new opportunity, and the business moves and business thrives. So thanks for bringing that up, because generally people have a lot of questions, but most of the people are not aware that what is the importance of security in their system, and somewhere a little bit of saving pennies actually cost them a lot of loss of money and the reputation in the market. So thanks for bringing all these points in a very simple manner, that the lot of audience who are listening to us, they can understand it very well, whether they come from a technology sector or maybe from a management sector, they understand it. So thanks, Mr. Theo.
So Deepak, maybe just to add on to that, I think that a security assessment is very important for any organization to do, because that tells you where your vulnerabilities are at the end of the day, and to ensure that you mitigate those risks and manage those risks by putting in alternative technology or taking precautions. So you need to understand where your vulnerabilities are and what risks you need to manage when it comes to security. And if you don't know what they are, you don't know what you're up to. So you need to know, by doing a proper security assessment, where those are.
And this also remind me another important part about the trusted and the untrusted uh, providers, the equipment providers. That is going in a very discussion. So what is your selection criteria of finalizing any equipment when you are onboarding them?
Okay, so what we do is basically we go through a stringent R&D process. So we test everything in our labs to ensure that this product will actually fit our market and work in our market and be able to do what it must do. So that's basically the focus that we do. And so any technology adoption we do, we make sure that it actually meets all the criteria that we require, so that we actually manage risks and manage any future issues that we may have with a provider or a new technology or a box or unit coming into our environment.
As you mentioned, it's a stringent, tedious, and obviously it's a time-consuming process to have all the checklists covered and customized as per the South African laws of the land.
but it's very important to do that. So if you don't check all those the tick boxes, then you might be opened for challenges in the future, or problems in the future. And to avoid that, I know it takes a little bit more time, but go through that process to actually achieve that.
We'd like to understand, what are the milestones which have been achieved by Vox Wireless under your leadership?
Yeah, I think one of them I just now mentioned. One of the big achievements I think we did was now bringing, low Earth orbit satellite services to the business community in South Africa, which has now just recently happened. It took a while for us to get there, but I think that it opens up such a lot of opportunities for businesses operating in especially rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many solutions that we can provide around that. I think the next, achievement is we've moved also into 5G technology. And there's some new launches and stuff coming up now very soon that we're moving further into different types of 5G technology that will also be very business specific as well. So we're really adopting to change as technology changes, embracing that and providing those solutions then to customers. It's not always easy to do that and get there, but it's a long development path and a lot of effort to get there. But when you achieve that and you get that right, I think it's quite a milestone that you actually achieve, and you feel good that you're actually able to serve customers in a better way, embracing new technology. So that is just some of the achievements I think we've done. Yeah.
I'm just visualizing in my head that having a specific bandwidth. When we talk about 5G, it's a immense bandwidth given to a business or maybe an individual. And when it comes to a Leo, so obviously there's some bandwidth constraint, but it makes the person connected. So in any way, in any shape you are in, so you are always have a solution from the box. That's the intake which I am having right now.
So just to mention, I mean, we all know 4G technology, which relates to LTE, and all that 5G actually it brings you more capacity. So it doesn't mean that you're going to utilize the higher speeds that it provides, but it means that you can handle so many more multiple connections to customers now than you ever could handle before. So it opens up the door for more capacity, but also, more speed.
No, definitely, and that's where the customization and personalization. So I'm pretty much sure before going for any deployment, there is a very intense consultancy given by the Vox to the subscriber, to the user, so that they understand what is their best fit, both in terms of their experience as well as the price and the cost effectiveness.
Absolutely, Deepak. So, I mean, we've got experienced salespeople, in Vox. I think at this stage we're sitting with about 500 salespeople, 200 account managers, and we've also got a whole set of solution architects. So this is a whole process. So if you just buy a single product, it's easy, you buy it and you use it. But if it comes to solutions for businesses, we actually design that solution, ensure that what we are providing the customer actually meets their requirement or exceeds their requirement, and understanding what their needs are, matching their needs to the solution that we're going to provide, and ensuring that when we architect the solution, that we're providing the right solution for sustainability to the customer. So you also need to take into account customer growth. It doesn't help just looking at the needs today, but you need to also understand when this customer grows, that they can grow with you by picking the right technology solution today, that they can actually grow. They don't need to replace and change everything again as they grow. So I think it's very important, to follow that approach. I know it might be a bit more lengthy, but at the end of the day, you may have a much happy customer.
I just want you to, go a little bit back and think about that area which was not connected. And with the Vox coming into that, now that village, that town, has some now the internet connectivity. So what was the experience, you have that thing, or what is the fulfillment you have at that time?
Now, I think the big thing was in 2012 when Vox, provided satellite services in many of these communities, and I know it was before my time in Vox, but what the achievement is there is that you brought connectivity to customers that never had connectivity before. And that, opened doors for them that they now can actually start connecting and communicating. The other aspect of that was that in some of these areas, you had not always the mobile coverage that you needed to serve customers. But the beauty of it is that today with your mobile phone, you connect to your Wi-Fi and your satellite, and you can actually receive your mobile calls or make your mobile calls and send and receive SMSs through the satellite connection by using Wi-Fi calling, for instance. So, you don't need to always be in a perfect coverage area. And that, I think, is quite an enhancement to those users, because now they could never use their mobile phone. Some of those farmers out there, which many, farm with cattle, with sheep and crops, they tell you they have to drive like to town, or they got to drive up a hill to get connectivity, make a phone call, come back. Now they don't need to do that. They can actually be in their farmhouse using satellite and actually do Wi-Fi calling and use their mobile phone. So that's some advantages in that, and it's not a huge part of the market. It's it's where there's very little population in South Africa, and it's very much there in the northern Karoo area as well in South Africa, where the population is very thin.
So now, as you mentioned, there's a huge set of employees in the form of solution architect, R&D, salespeople, and obviously there's a lot of operational costs. So what are the steps as a leader you have taken to reduce those operational costs?
I think to reduce operational costs, I think there's two things that come to mind. Is firstly economies of scale. So if you can do volumes, that means you can actually per unit bring down your cost, and that gives you a huge form of efficiency. The second one is to ensure that you always, endorse operational efficiency. See where you can save cost, manage cost. I think cost is a very important factor, and the lower your cost is, the better the price can be, the better you can serve your customer. So we've always got this vicious cycle of to ensure that we manage our costs a lot better through operational efficiencies, and also economies of scale. So if you can scale something and you can get a lot of customers on it, then the unit of that solution is actually much less than per unit. If you're going to just provide a few units, then the cost is very high. If you can provide thousands of units, your economies are better, and you can provide it at a much better price point. So I think that's, in my mind, a lot of that taking place. And then looking through organizations where you can save money in various instances as well, by automating things, using automation to fulfill certain tasks where which can provide a lot more efficiencies as well.
And obviously, like in the technology industry today, if anything is coming without AI, people will not accept. So I'm pretty much sure Vox also has developed a lot of AI solutions to enhance the efficiencies.
Deepak, yes. I'm going to mention one example, and we use AI in Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi is actually a very complicated solution. If you think of the millions of devices that can actually connect to Wi-Fi today, and you need to cater for all those devices with different standards, different forms, different versions of Wi-Fi chipsets on them, it becomes an enormous, it's humanly nearly impossible to manage all that. And I think AI plays a fundamental role in that, but we deploy, especially in businesses. So from a business perspective, and a good example, we did a solution for an educational institution that has over 1,000 students a day in the environment, and they're using a 1 gigabits per second line, fiber line. But it's to optimize that environment that every student gets an optimal experience on their laptop or on their cell phone as they use the Wi-Fi. And if a human had to optimize that network, it would have probably taken them years to do.
Yeah.
Because of the scale of that network, understanding where traffic goes, where the hotspots of traffic is. Wi-Fi is very sensitive to interference. So one access point can interfere with another access point. But what AI does, it actually learns this environment and it makes changes to actually optimize this environment. Now, it doesn't happen in 5 minutes. This took like 5 to 7 days to optimize the whole environment. But now that the whole network is optimized and AI is fully managing that network, the customer has a perfect experience. And the end users have a perfect experience. But if a human had to do it, we would try and tweak it. We would get it right to a certain extent, but it wouldn't be fully optimized. And I think that's where AI plays a fundamental role. Same, it's a combination of AI and machine learning, so it's a combination of the two to actually optimize networks. And I think it comes very much in any network type of environment, using AI and machine learning to optimize your data, your traffic, all those things. But also in processes, there's many tasks that I think machine learning can actually do for you to execute things faster and quicker, to be more efficient. Yes, and in Vox we definitely adopt AI and machine learning to create efficiencies even on our side as well.
It's a very interesting topic, because now with this tool of AI, it will also predict the customer behavior, which gives a more customized and offers again, giving them a scope to pay some premium to get more and more out of it.
Yeah, I think AI, what it's delivering now and into the future, is really understanding what your customer needs and behavior is, how they use the network and so on, that you can actually provide the right solution to that customer. And I believe this is a journey. This is not something, that AI you switch on today and it solves all your problems. That's not going to happen. But it's a whole learning process. And I think we're all on the same, bandwagon here to adopt AI. And as AI improves and technologies improve and the integration into that improves, we adopt it as we go along to improve customer satisfaction, customer experience, efficient process efficiencies and stuff like that.
Um, Africa, because our audience are, coming from the global perspective, but we want to know about the Africa potential in your own words. Like, what the potential, what the areas, what are the type of resources, what are the type of opportunities in Africa, and how Africa is ready for the future developments.
So I think there's a lot of opportunities in South Africa, in terms of, especially in the telecommunications space. So if you just think of, and there's various aspects of that. I mean, if you just think of where a lot of IoT is going, that's a big phenomenal growth that I think is happening. If you start thinking of smart homes in South Africa, and automation in homes, automation in businesses, I think there's such a lot of opportunities in that's evolving, to go into those type of businesses as well. So I think we're really in a growth area in that. I don't believe, that, and if I just look at my own home, you start with one device, a PC, and it connects to a LAN cable. Even in my own home, I think today I'm sitting with like over 70 connected devices. So at the end of the day, this is where this is all evolving, is to understand, to make life easier for you, to make, if anybody can bring in anything using technology and connectivity to make life easier for somebody, people pay for that. It saves time, saves money, creates efficiencies in your home. So understanding just the electricity usage in a home, by just looking at what's being used in electricity, you can actually save, cost. So I think there's such a lot of opportunities outside just the connectivity side that actually uses and relies on connectivity solutions. So I think, and South Africa hasn't adopted that really that much yet. It's there, but I think there's a large curve of adoption coming in that space still in years to come. And I think that's where a lot of growth is also going to be taking place and creating a lot of hopefully job opportunities also in South Africa in that space.
I always call the Africa as a gold mine, and definitely there are a lot of resources, a lot of fresh minds, and who are actually becoming more and more innovative over the time with the use of technology.
Deepak, I think one of the big things in South Africa that, has been very interesting is that South Africa is also still a big prepaid type of consumption, market. And what Vox has done is we've got a sister company, Hyper, that provides prepaid fiber to the communities out there. So it's not that it's an inferior type of product. They get a fiber product with uncapped, and I mean prices start like from 272 rand a month type of, in that space. So it's really providing affordable solutions to those communities. And I believe that enabling those communities with affordable solutions and giving access to internet, will actually also improve or create more jobs in South Africa as well. So it's really opening up to giving connectivity, proper connectivity out there. And that's a real growing business as well in doing that. So it's a payment choice decision. If you want to do prepaid or you want to get an account at the end of the month that you want to pay, I think the choice is many times up to customers, but it's also different areas where this is all rolled out. So, with the operators in South Africa and servicing the communities, this is a whole approach that we're taking to go to those markets as well.
And definitely there are so many flexibility which comes with the demand as the demand grows, and Vox is very well stable at a very good stable position to offer all this type of bouquet solution and the bundle solutions.
Absolutely, Deepak, we definitely are. Yeah. So.
Let us know about some of the CSR, the social responsibility initiatives the Vox is doing for the upliftment of Africans.
So I think where that's played a big role in the local communities is, I'm going to focus again once on Hyper, which is an initiative from Vox to create. I think one big thing that we've done is to create affordable fiber prices for communities out there, and I think that has been received very well and is a very successful project that we're driving. And then I think the big thing around that is that we are actually employing people out of communities to actually be in that community, providing services to that community. And I think that is a very important factor, is that you actually empower that whole community to grow as well, not just from a technology point of view, but also from a jobs point of view. So I think there's a lot being done in that space. And besides that, I know we also do a lot, for like schools and, community centers and stuff around that, which we do different projects. So a lot happening around that. But I think from a technology point of view, is one of the main drivers that we do is to, provide affordable connectivity for those communities and, allow that community to grow with us in that community.
And education is the key, right? If the right knowledge is given right from the at a right level, at a right age, then definitely these are going to impact the whole community and the country as well.
Absolutely, Deepak. I think, the more people are given more better connectivity solutions out there, the more growth we'll have in our economy as well, the more solutions. One would never know, in a year's time, what new technologies, what new innovations would come. So, I mean, but I think the more you can provide communities with access to that, the better, and that's how you grow the economy at the end of the day.
So it's not only connecting the society, it's actually building a society and the communities for the better future.
Absolutely. You need to build that whole society with it. And I think that's very important. You need to understand how you grow that. It's not just about providing connectivity and then walk away. It's not not that.
In the interest of time, I want to ask a last advice from you. Specifically, what is your message to the emerging professionals who want to build a meaningful career in the telecom or the wireless technology? And by the way, they are confused. There are so many things coming right now at the same time.
I think to build a meaningful, you're gonna say career or professionals that want to go in there is those that do go in that and that study in that type of environment is to be always ready for change. New things coming. It's an unbelievable, dynamic, changing environment. And every day, every week, there's some new things, some new challenges. And I think it's to be open to that, to actually be able to adopt to that. But I think you also need to see from a technology point of view, it's not about just the technology from those young professionals. It's what you can do with that technology, what you provide on the other side of that technology that opens up many doors. So for instance, if you're running, a wireless connection, why are you using that wireless? What are you using it for? And then seeing how you can enhance, or provide services to your customer on the other end of that to actually enhance their life further. So if it is to provide, access to security cameras, then, that's what that is. But there's a lot of solutions maybe around that. If it's about, providing connectivity for office workers, then it's around that and what you can do to enhance the office environment. So I think when young professionals go into this market, they must just not be, looking at the connectivity, but they must also look at all the auxiliary services that you actually provide around this at the end of the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing all these points and very important message which you have given right now, know the purpose and also look at the whole ecosystem to create a meaningful impact, which is not happening to this generation, but also will continue for the future as well. So thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Theo, for your insights. You're sharing your experience and taking the Vox to a next level and making it a preferred choice of becoming the enabler for their own personal growth as well as for their own professional business growth. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time, Deepak. Appreciate it and have a nice day.
Right. Thank you. And to the audience, until next time, this is Deepak Vijay signing off. Thank you so much.